Thank you, Member of Parliament, President of the Tibet Society of the UK, and Member of All Party Parliamentary Group for Tibet. Please welcome Mr. Norman Becker.
If I shout, can you hear me?
Yay!
Good. Let me tell you, friends, that you are not alone in your struggle for justice for Tibet. You have many friends in the United Kingdom, many friends in Parliament, and many who want to see justice long overdue for your country. His Holiness has always argued for a non-violent approach, and I fear that because of that, in some ways, the world has not responded as it should have responded to such an approach. And there have been United Nations resolutions about Tibet, and the world has not acted upon those. Well, now it is time for the world to act. This morning I was very pleased with 6 Tibetan friends, some of whom are here, to deliver a letter to the Prime Minister asking him to take action both domestically and also in conjunction with our European Union partners and indeed the United Nations. It is very important that we have international presence in Lhasa and other Tibetan towns and cities to make sure that the world at large can know what is going on and to make sure that the Chinese cannot get away with brutality and repression without the world seeing that. And we want to stop that. We have a particular responsibility here in the United Kingdom to help you, I think, because we were there in Tibet in 1904. Thank you very much. We were there in 1904, we were there in 1914, we signed treaties with an independent Tibet. We know that in 1911, 1949 at least, and before that you were an independent country, functioning, dealing with other countries. You had your own currency, you had your own postal regime, you had your own foreign relations. And it's a disgrace to the world that when the Chinese marched in, the world did not say stop. And we must now do what we can in the face of brutality from the Chinese in Lhasa and elsewhere to make sure the world takes this opportunity so that some good will come out of a terrible situation. And if the good that comes out is that the world's attention for once is focused on Tibet, then we have a chance of raising the issues of justice and of freedom and of human rights in a way that the world has not wanted to listen to in recent years. I very much hope that we will see the international presence in Tibet, and I hope very much that the international community will put pressure on the Chinese to follow the path of dialogue, not signing pieces of paper which mean nothing, but actually living up to what they promised to the international community, living up to what they promised to the Olympic Committee, making sure there was respect for human rights in Tibet, and indeed for that matter in China, and making sure there is free access for journalists and others, because that was promised and has not been adhered to. My colleagues and I in the All-Party Tibet Group will be seeking to raise these matters in Parliament and putting whatever pressure we can on the British government to make sure that our voice in the UK is heard. We have that historical connection in particular. We have a duty to raise it, and I and others want to make sure that we do. Thank you for coming along. Today, on what I know is a very difficult day for you, and you'll be thinking about your fellow countrymen and women in Tibet. And you have our deepest sympathy and condolence, but beyond that, you also have our determination to do what we can to help you. You are not alone.
Thank you very much. Thank you for such inspiring speech, and we hope for your continued support for the cause of justice, for the cause of Tibet. Next, now we have Mr. Edward McMillan-Scott, MEP, Vice President of the European Parliament, and he is also the founder of EU Democracy and Human Rights Initiatives. Please welcome.
Thank you very much. I'd like to echo what Norman Baker has said. We are here to stand beside you on this vigil because of what's taking place today in Tibet and what's taken place in Tibet for so long now at the hands of the Chinese regime. I visited Tibet in 1996. I was the first politician to go in there after a 3-year ban. There is another ban today on journalists and those who seek to get into Tibet to find out what's really happening to your people. The world is watching. We are now outside the Chinese embassy. That building represents a terror state. There are, apart from the terrible conditions in your country, in the monasteries, in the prisons, in the detention centers, there are elsewhere in the mainland of China, a different country. There are 7 million people in detention centers. There are people who are being persecuted for their religious beliefs. All the dissidents are being rounded up. This in the name of the Olympic Games, which were awarded to China in 2001 on the basis of promises of reform, not just in China but in Tibet. Nothing has happened. I believe that all politicians of conscience in the European Union's 27 countries, people like Norman Baker, should unite in condemnation of what is taking place today in Tibet. We should now begin in the European Union a serious debate about a boycott of the Beijing Olympics. The world is with you. The world is watching. China must react. It is time to bring an end to the tyranny and the terror. Support reform and democracy across China and in Tibet itself. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Edward McMillan-Scott. Now may I request all to stand up and we will sing our Tibetan national anthem and followed by the prayers for those who were killed and injured in Tibet by the Chinese military.
Thank you.